And we're live. Tom Cassidy here. This is Reasonable Eating. This is the Algorithm 7 launch. It's Sunday evening in the UK, and the rest of the world, it's all over the different time zones, as always. Delighted to have so many people on the program from different parts of the world. It's phenomenal, really. I just completely amazed at how people are taking to this and really getting into this whole idea of this marginal gains, this one thing at a time, this applying their own personal discernment, and the fourth dogma, of course, which is a reasonable plan, which is like try to do something that's realistic, that's sensible, that's reasonable, and obviously we'll get extraordinary results, exceptional results at the end of the program. So what is week 7 all about? It's actually why we eat, and it's part 2 of why we eat, and it's eat for a long life. And if we are eating at all, we should of course be eating for nutritional value, for enjoyment, for all these great things, but we probably want to be eating things that are going to enable us to live for a long time and to kind of get healthier and healthier our whole lives as we get more in tune with our bodies and more in tune with food and get more in tune mentally with everything. And I'm very interested in longevity. Part of the reason I wanted to eat healthily in the first place was because I thought that it was probably a significant thing that I wasn't doing that well a couple of years ago. I wasn't eating terribly, but I wasn't eating amazingly well either. I was a few pounds overweight, so to speak. I'm now in relatively good shape. This is a jumper that's was really big on me. This is I'll just show you this t-shirt just for a bit of fun. Oops. This t-shirt was a t-shirt I got in Thailand recently, and it was when I went out to get some stuff fitted in Thailand. Now I'm a slightly different shape because I've been concentrating on getting into a reasonable shape. I did eating last year was the main focus, well, about 18 months, and 2013 I decided to get eating sorted, eating habits sorted. 2014 I'm getting shape sorted, and I'm getting into reasonable shape. I'm not trying to be crazy, I'm not trying to go for like massive biceps or anything like that. I'm just trying to get into reasonable shape, the sort of shape that's going to see me through to 150 years on the planet, because I've got plenty of things to do and I need all that time to do them. So I initially, when I was thinking that let's live to 150, why not? Let's first of all look at the people who have been around at least 100 years and which populations in the world have managed to eat for a long life, or how much has eating played a part of them being around for quite a long time. Now, I'm also interested when people say 150, you're completely crazy. Well, yes, crazy, but not completely crazy, and I'll tell you why not completely crazy. I was looking at this data recently. At the turn of the century, the life expectancy for a US male was about 45. So in 1900 it was about 45. So the people that were born in 1900 that are living now to 100, and they're maybe dead now, but they lived for 100 years, more than doubled the life expectancy of the period. So what was the life expectancy when I was born? Well, it was about 70. So I was 1968 was when I was born. So the life expectancy was about 70. So living double, so 70 years later, when some people live double the life expectancy, me living double the life expectancy, to me doesn't sound that crazy. It sounds a bit crazy, but not that crazy, especially when you consider the enormous changes that are going to happen in the next 100 years. I'm 45, I'm 46 in a couple of weeks. No, just over a week. A week tomorrow, I'm 46, 26th of May. But what do we expect to happen in the next 100 years with technological breakthroughs? Well, if we think what's happened in the last 100 years, it's astonishing. And I feel healthier now than I've ever felt. I've got more energy. I'm physically in better condition, not cardiovascularly. When I was at university, I was pretty cardiovascularly fit. I don't even know that that's an advert, but I had quite good cardiovascular fitness. I rowed a lot, and I wasn't actually amazing at rowing, I have to admit. In fact, just so happens that I have this. Now, this is me rowing. You probably can't see it. It's probably going to reflect rather badly, but this is me rowing when I was at college. I was at Oriel College, and I rowed in the second torpid. Now that might sound not so much of a big deal, it isn't that much of a big deal, but the Oriel College at Oxford was the best one for rowing, and the second torpid was we started third on the river. So there was the Oriel College first torpid was first on the river, and then it was another college. It was Christchurch. They were Christchurch is where they filmed Harry Potter, by the way. The dining hall where they do all the prizes and all that stuff in Harry Potter was actually filmed in Christchurch. Christchurch were second on the river, and then the Oriel College second boat was the third boat on the river. So out of the 28, 30 or so colleges, Oriel was pretty good. Had a good rowing tradition. Anyway, so I got, obviously when you're out on the water training 6 days a week and in the gym training as well, you do get quite fit in those regards. So I'm not as fit as I was then in terms of the cardiovascular stuff that I can do. But in terms of everything else, in terms of my strength, my core strength particularly, the fact that I don't have a chair and I just happen to be on these hangouts for 3 or 4 hours a day is obviously something to do with it. Now, I tend to wear reflexology shoes because I think it's important that if you are standing and you're moving around from side to side, I don't go into all this sort of walk, you have to get a travelator and keep going, because I want to actually be able to type and I want to be able to talk to people, and I don't think that I'd be able to concentrate as much. But I guess after a while you could probably work out how to do it. But anyway, the point is I'm in better shape now than I've ever been. I sleep better. I don't snore anymore. I'm less. I've got much less body fat than I've had. I have much better eating habits. I have much more energy. My nails grow better. My skin looks better. I don't know whether you can really tell if you look back at some of the old videos, but certainly if you look at the videos from me a couple of years ago on the Udemy platform, I look quite different. Okay, you could argue that these aren't HD quality videos on Google, so you can't really see. But okay, the point is, it works. What I'm doing works incredibly well. It's fun, it's easy, it's reasonable, and what I'm really interested in is I'm interested in living at kind of optimal health for as long as possible, to 150. Give you an example. Buckminster Fuller, when he was born in 1895, the life expectancy was 42. He lived to 88, right? So he more than doubled the life expectancy. So I expect him more than double the life expectancy, which was about 70 when I was born, which will be 140, double, take me to 150. So it's not like we're trying to do anything. Plus the increases in rate at which technology is growing, I think it's totally reasonable. Anyway, I'm going to zip through the sort of things that we do eat for a long life, and then I'm going to suggest that you actually take a test. Let's see if I think I do screen share. Yeah, algorithm number 7, eat for a long life. Here we go. So I'm going to skip through this quite quickly because it's all in the document, but it's the second in the why to eat domain. Of course, you can't really separate these domains are artificial. The fact that it's why, how, what, and when you eat. But it's interesting that I'm certainly finding that focusing on why and focusing on the how and focusing on when are much more meditative, much more contemplative than just eating on focusing on the what. And I think that's crucial. I think the awareness. I think eating is the gateway to awareness. I think it's absolutely massive. Anyway, so this really focuses on Dan Buettner or Butner. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Here he is, Dan Buettner, and his Blue Zones project, which is a 5-year study sponsored by the National Geographic into the habits of the longest living world populations. He postulated that most of the secrets to their longevity might lie within their lifestyle and environment, and this was supported by the fact that genetically, thanks to a well-known Danish twin study, indicates that probably only about 20% of the longevity of an individual was determined by genes. So anyway, he found 5 populations in the world, and these were the Barbagia region of Sardinia, the Icaria region in Greece, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, Seventh-day Adventists in California, and Okinawa in Japan. And before we get too deeply into this, I'm just going to say be careful to use your own discernment. It's absolutely critical that you do that. I think I say that phrase more than any other phrase, absolutely critical. But it is crucial. And let's remember that sample size, only 263 centenarians were interviewed. And it's quite a large number, but less than 1,000 in any study involving human practices is not, you're not going to really bet your house on it. Again, Buchanan doesn't say anything about cause. He talks about correlation, of course, because he can't say anything about cause. Um, this example is, if pet owners live longer, it might be that the sort of person who owns a pet is much more gentle, kind, and relaxed anyway. One could argue that all you need to do is be the sort of person who owns a pet rather than actually own a pet yourself. So correlation is a great place to start, but it's no more a proof than, well, anything is really. Okay, and then these are the best things out of what have already been tried. Henry Ford allegedly said, and there's some debate about whether he did actually say this, but if I'd asked people what they wanted, they'd have asked for a better horse or a faster horse, some people say. Now, it's likely that he didn't actually say that, but the point is very similar to that, or it's certainly very useful, in that if you ask people what they want, they usually don't know. They don't know whether or not there is something better that you've invented, because they only know what they've done so far already. So it may be that there exist even better ways to live that are not currently followed by large groups, and as a result don't show up in any of the current research studies. So apply your own discernment to this, see whether this stuff seems to make sense to you as a starting point, and then start experimenting yourself and see which things you can incorporate and which things it would make sense not to do in general out of the things that you already do. So the Blue Zone's Power 9, he talks about these 9 things are habits or traits that all of these populations that lived a long time seem to have. So one is move naturally, and that's why I don't do much cardiovascular, because the world's longest lived people don't pump iron, run marathons or join gyms. They live in environments that constantly nudge them into moving without thinking about it. So that's why I have a vertical desk, because I don't have to think about getting exercise. I don't have to think about exercising. If I'm doing 4 hours a day standing, kind of rocking from side to side, it's my environment has forced me to do that. Now, you could argue that's not tremendous, but it's better than sitting down for 4 hours. Sitting down is a disastrous thing. I mean, there isn't a soul out there in the world that would say that sitting down is actually good for you. The question is whether replacing that regular sitting down is that beneficial or not. Well, it's just a marginal gain that you can apply to your life. For me, it works incredibly well. I use reflexology shoes so I don't get my back all screwed up, and also I stretch a lot, and it inspires me not to stay working at my computer for too long. Okay, purpose. The Okinawans call it, I don't know what call it, pronounceable, ikigai or ikigai. And the Nicoyans call it plan de vida. For both, it translates to why I wake up in the morning. Know your sense of purpose is worth up to 7 years of extra life expectancy. According to this study, perhaps. Let's not get too carried away by this. I'm not getting cynical. Of course, it seems that purpose would be important, but let's not say that really how much of a purpose you've got is really calibrated against years in any real way. But it seems to be important. Downshift, the stress that you experience seems to be a big factor. So take a few minutes each day to meditate or pray or have a nap, or as Sardinians do happy hour. Okay, we talked about the 80% rule, Hara Hachbu, in stop eating when no longer hungry. That was week 6. And this is a mantra, it's a grace that they say before food, which says, look, let's just stop at 80% full. And this 20% gap between not being hungry and feeling full could be the difference between losing weight or gaining it. You work out how much, if you want to go the calorie route, you work out how much in terms of calories you will burn by being in the gym for an hour, and it'd be interesting to work out as a percentage. Now, if you're, let's say you're on 2,000 calories a day, 20% is 400 calories. So let's work out, go to the gym and work out how much it's going to, your gym exercise in terms of calories is actually going to work, make a difference. And it might well be that you'd be much better off doing maybe a few hours of standing like this, or walking, or light gardening, and then just eating 80% rather than, or eating 20% less, rather than going crazy down the gym. It's interesting. that in the early evening eating, I find this willpower, and I'm reading a bit about this at the moment and applying it to my life. It's easiest to make good willpower decisions when you're not tired. And as you get increasingly tired during the day, it becomes harder and harder to make good decisions involving willpower. You can think of it as your willpower running out. So by the time it comes to the end of the day and it's sort of 8 o'clock at night and you've had a fairly big meal and you think, oh, I'll just have a bit of dessert or just have a bit of ice cream, and then a couple of hours later you're watching a movie and, oh, I just feel like some crisps and stuff like that. It's really difficult to fight those decisions because that's really late on the day where you haven't got much energy and you haven't got much willpower left. It's pretty easy to make a decision about health when you wake up in the morning. So it's probably best to plan to be aware of that and realize that it's going to require much more willpower. So make it harder for you to do the things that you're going to need your willpower for. As in, don't make the job of not having ice cream for pudding harder than it needs to be. In other words, don't put the ice cream on display. Don't get the ice cream bowl ready and put it on your table and say and see if you can resist it then. You know, and if your partner wants to have ice cream, that's fantastic. But then you do something deliberate instead of that, like go and make a cup of tea or something like that. Right, plant slant, beans including fava, black soy, black beans, soy and lentils are the cornerstone of most of these diets. Meat, most of them aren't vegetarians this group, but meat, mostly pork, is eaten on average only 5 times a month. So serving sizes are also small. So even though they might eat some meat, they're not eating that much overall in the month. Okay, so a lot of them drink a little bit of wine at 5 o'clock in the evening. I wouldn't say that this is a deal breaker if you don't want to drink any alcohol at all, but I think the idea is that it's much better for your health in general to drink a glass of red wine in the evening, and it relaxes you, and there's all sorts of stuff in there, resveratrol or something like that. It's apparently quite good in there as well, and do that as a habitual thing rather than certainly you can't get hammered at the weekend. No, you can't save up all weekend and have 14 drinks on a Saturday. Okay, 7, 8, and 9. Most of these people belong to something. They were part of something bigger than themselves. They put their loved one first, so families were very, very important to them. And they're part of the right tribe. It's much easier to be healthy if all your friends are healthy. It's much easier to eat reasonably if you're hanging around people who eat reasonably. It's way, way harder to do things which are not supported by your social network and your closest friends. So being part of the right tribe makes it an awful lot easier to actually end up where you want to go. Okay, so what's interesting about these characteristics is that of the 9 characteristics, 6 are to do with the individual and 3 interactional. Of the 6 that are entirely within the realm of the individual, 4 are physical and 2 are mental. Of the 4 physical traits, 1 relates to activity and 3 relate to eating. So 1/3 of these power 9s relate to eating. That's really interesting, isn't it? 3/4 of the physical traits are to do with eating. And that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It tells you that if you get eating right, you've got a good chance of living for a long life. Okay, so I'm not going to get too much into that detail because I think we've done enough already. But these are sorts of things that you can do when it's eating for a long life. So here's a summary. Okay, so have a glass of wine with your evening meal. Toss nuts into a salad or stir fry. Spread nut butter on your morning toast instead of butter or cream cheese. Well, don't. I don't think you should have toast in the morning. I think toast is a disaster. I think basically all bread is a disaster. And it's not because it doesn't taste good, it tastes great, but it really messes you up. Again, discernment's the most important thing. I apply it to my life. I used to eat a lot of bread. I was exhausted a lot. I hardly eat any now. Is that the only thing I've changed? No, but it's part of it for sure. And I find that when I do eat bread, I do feel sluggish and tired. So I don't eat it as much. But why not sprinkle chopped nuts on cereal or yogurt? Okay, so that's all we're going to do. Let's go back to the camera. and just say, really, just have a wonderful week. You know, eating, when you're eating, think about eating for a long life. Think about all the things that you will be eating that contribute, you know, for the next, say, 30, 50 or 80 years, or however old you're planning to be, and however much longer you're planning to be on the planet. I definitely think this. You know, I think this. Okay, yeah, maybe I do like ice cream, but what's the long game of me eating ice cream continuously? Would it be better over a period of time to generally prefer frozen grapes or frozen fruit as a dessert rather than ice cream? And you know what? I'm not there yet. I would still look at some Haagen-Dazs salted caramel ice cream and think, yeah, I quite fancy that. But I tell you what, I'm not that far away. It's kind of like today, I didn't have anything. I was thinking we've got 2 tubs in the freezer because we had Lisa, our au pair from a few years ago, over, came to help with a baby for a week or so, and she loves this stuff. So we bought like 3 tubs, and you know what? It was there. I didn't have any, and I thought, well, I'll just have 3 or 4 frozen grapes, and I'm not that far from actually thinking that frozen grapes are much better. And also, because I have a cut-off time, I can eat pretty much what I like between lunchtime and 8 o'clock in the evening. But after 8 o'clock in the evening, I decide not to eat. So most of the time, that rule saves me from having to use willpower to make decisions not to eat food late on in the evening when I kind of feel like it's like, oh, it's after 8 o'clock. So it saves me having to engage the process of willpower, because there's already, I can't get beyond that. Okay, what's the time? Oh, it's like 20 past 8. Right, yeah, I can't eat. And that's all to do with the eating process, the weight training for the blood, and it's actually coming on a little bit later on in the program. I think it'll be week 10 actually, that one. But that's me. Apply your own discernment as always. I've really enjoyed this session. I've got another one lined up, so I'm going to let you go now. But have a wonderful week. It's all there for you. Eat for a long life, and just marginally, if you can just eat a little bit less in the way of sugars and grains and carbohydrates, a little bit more in vegetables and beans, and maybe a little bit of wine rather than beer or anything like that, then inch by inch you're probably doing quite a good thing. Okay, have a wonderful week and talk to you soon. Bye.